We'll call the regular council meeting to order this evening for Monday, June 22nd. And council, we do adopt the minutes from June 8th. Are there any errors or omissions, please? Hearing none, could I have a mover and seconder, please, to adopt the minutes? Councillor Peak, Councillor Carlson. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, Corporate Officer, you have a couple of late items for us, I believe.
Yes, there are two late items. First one being landfill administrative services. It will be added to the agenda as 11.5. Second item is grant and aid for the Summerland Minor Softball Association. It would be added into discussion of grant and aid at 11.1.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it.
Motion to accept.
Okay, motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councillor Holmes, thank you. Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Thank you very much. CAO, we have our 214 annual report.
That's right, and the annual report is attached. It has been circulated and published for the last 2 weeks, and this is considered the annual general meeting for the purposes of the annual report. You should check and see if there's anybody that would like to speak to the annual report.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody in the audience would like to have any questions or comments about the annual report? Hearing none, I don't think we have to go through the 3 times in this.
No.
Do we?
I'll just make one more comment.
Okay, if you, yep.
Just for council's note, that the 2014 annual report is quite a valuable document in that it records all your strategic objectives, both what you plan to do and your measurements against it and what you do plan to do. This annual report is, this year, with it being your first year, is just, it meets the requirements that's required. But, and with me coming on, I really like doing annual reports that are really a living document that helps guide the year ahead. So we're looking for some substantial change to it for next year. But at this point in time, it captures the information and is a good starting place for us.
So we have no discussion, I would assume. Do we need a motion to accept?
Yes.
We have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. So now we have section 5, or item 5, public comment opportunity. This is where we have 2 minutes for public members to make comment on any agenda items that are highlighted in yellow on the main agenda. So that leaves some items that are strictly for, have already got comment built in them.
I believe the corporate officer sent an updated cover sheet with that. But basically, everything's highlighted with the exception of the 10.3.
Okay, anybody have anything they like to raise that's highlighted in the agenda? Please give us your name, please.
Ron Johnson,
That's right.
8801 Robertson Avenue.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
Reading over the agenda, 11.3, the recommendation for the $97,073 write-off.
Yep.
I know nothing about that, and I've never heard anything about that, and I'm hoping that tonight it gets very clearly explained to everybody what this is,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets debated, and also the pros and cons of making this discussion, or this decision will be discussed, because I don't know where this came from, and I kind of follow things, but it just came out of the blue here somewhere.
You missed it,
I
Ron.
missed it, yeah, I missed it. Because I'm just concerned, $100,000 write-off for a town the size of Summerland is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
You can fix all the road, or, no,
No.
Giant Road.
No, you couldn't fix them all, Ron?
No, I usually do a lot of them, so,
Okay.
like I say, I hope this, whatever this is, gets very clearly explained
Yes.
tonight for everyone.
Have you had a chance to read the agenda at all, or read the material?
Yeah,
Good.
just what's, is
Yep.
there more than what?
No,
one
no, what's
paragraph?
there, you'll get, well, the full agenda has it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with no additional comments from the public, We'll move forward to the mayor's report. This is for today. Just a few highlighted items. On June 8th, I attended the Okanagan College Strategic Planning Session. They were bringing in outside people for comment and help in their preparation for their strat plan. So it was interesting to participate, and it was a bit of an eye-opener for me, as I've not been involved in the college affairs in that sense before, so it was kind of an interesting participatory function. On June 15th, I attended the Elder Abuse Seminar at Summerland Seniors Village. And, it was pointed out by the lady who was giving the seminar that I think all of us are probably reasonably aware abuse has been a big topic in the community last couple of 3 years. But I think with reference to seniors, it's a particular note that it does take all forms. Physical and emotional is a toughie, but it certainly occurs. And then financial abuse. So it's something that the room was full of people. Mind you, the venue is such that many could attend. But still, I found it kind of illuminating and rather concerning. So I think it's something we all want to pay attention to and bring attention to it when anything is observed. Because a lot of seniors are somewhat helpless in their situations and don't know quite how to respond, and so they need all the help they can get, and it's surprising how subtle some of those forms of abuse can be. On June 16th, I also attended, along with other counselors, the Business After Business celebration. I think it was essentially the end of the season celebration, and there was excellent attendance at the yacht club. The room was full, and Bottleneck Drive was busy handing out samples and people trying wines and ciders, and it was actually pretty colorful and well received by everybody. And I must say that, and I didn't know you were going to be here, Christine, it was already written down, okay, that the Chamber is doing an excellent job of bringing the business community together, and I applaud you for that. I've attended a fair number of those functions, and that was certainly a highlight for the business community. On the 18th, Councillor Boot and I attended a regular RDOS board meeting. And on, and the last one here is we'd like to, as a council and administration, address congratulations to Mrs. Jenny Reeves, who has just celebrated her 100th birthday on June 21st. She is the mother of Karen Coombs, who I know fairly well locally. And tomorrow, John Art and I are going to be present at the St. Andrews Pavilion and be presenting her with a certificate from the council congratulating her on her 100th birthday. So Karen will be there, and I think she's quite tickled, so hopefully John and I'll do a good job. And that's my mayor's report. CAO.
I did hand out a copy of the CAO report, and I understand there's some at the back, so I won't go through it all. Just a note on number 5, I did discuss the water supply. The Director of Works and I are keeping in touch, and we will be including an update on each of the council meetings. If we start to have any kind of water shortage, we'll do a full, more detailed report, and we're monitoring it, as it explains in here, just a little closer than usual, and staying in touch with Penticton, Peachland, and West Kelowna to discuss the overall picture. At this point in time, our reservoirs are full. And the rest, I think, is self-explanatory on the report.
Thank you. So do we have any unfinished business that we need to deal with? I don't see anything. We're moving right into correspondence.
Yes, 9.1.
So we have a number of items of correspondence that are there for information, and I'd like a motion to receive the correspondence, please. Councillor Boot, seconder. Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, 9.2. Correspondence from committee, commissions, etc. That the recommendation following minutes from council committees and commissions be received by council. Counselor Peak, thank you. Counselor Barkwell, all in favor? Thank you, it's carried. Okay, we're into Development Services Department reports. 10.1, stewardship agreement for Rocky Mountain Ridge Mussel and Western Screech Owl. So that is for our planner to bring forward.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you will recall, the stewardship agreements, and there's two of them that the province has asked us to participate in, and they were presented to council at the May 25th regular meeting, and there was some questions about those. So I have in the report here itemized basically what is in the agreements, and basically the district is agreeing to best practices for both Rocky Mountain Ridge Mussel and Western Screech Owl, both of which are requiring protection. And essentially, I can advise that there are agreements in place with Coldstream and Regional District of the Central Okanagan for screech owls. The spadefoot, that what used to be known as the spadefoot toad, has an agreement in Vernon. Ridge mussels have agreements with Oliver, Penticton, and Vernon. And the short-rayed aster has a stewardship agreement in the RDOS. And we have our shared environmental planner in the gallery with us today, Allison Pete, who is the expert, or certainly more expert than we are, and can answer any questions that you may have on either of these.
Could you please come to the mic and speak?
I want to make sure you're on.
Well, you never know. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. This is a big body of information here. So before we start, do you have anything you'd like to add before councillors pepper you with any questions they may have?
The only clarification, because I'm not sure, I know this is a new council and you may not be familiar, I'm here, I work under contract to the city, so I'm a registered professional biologist, and so my role isn't to advocate on behalf of the province. I don't work for them. I'm advising you folks about the implications for you. The SOSCP does receive some funding to help local governments interpret and understand species at risk, but it's my professional responsibility to make sure that I balance the, understandable interests I have in looking after species at risk as an environmental professional with the responsibility I have to you guys. So I'm not here to push or
Okay.
advocate for one thing or another.
Still not good.
So-
I'm not projecting as much as I think.
So you're the one we turn to when we're
Yeah,
coming to
I'm here
interpret
once a
things?
week,
I see.
and I'm providing advice to planning and parks
Right,
and
gotcha.
and engineering when I'm asked.
see.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Thank you. Council, any questions of Ms. Pete? Councillor Barkwell.
I read this report in every word of it, and one of the first concerns I have is the maps showing the areas that are to be covered by the agreement don't show the areas that are to be covered by the agreement. I don't see how we can agree to something that isn't defined.
Right. So I saw your question. It was forwarded to me, so
Yeah.
I thought about your concern, and without getting into more detail than you need, the Rocky Mountain Ridge mussel has specific habitat requirements that make it easy to map the locations where it occurs. The screech owl is a bit of a different creature. It's associated with specifically mainly two types of trees. That would be cottonwood and yellow pine or ponderosa pine. So what gives me a comfort level with this agreement personally is that there's a very small population of screech owls in the province. The estimate is something in the neighborhood of about 200 pairs in the whole province, and they certainly aren't all here. So on a typical year, there would be 2 nest trees in the vicinity of Summerland. They wouldn't necessarily be even within Summerland district. So we're not talking about a lot of sites. And the reason why they didn't map them, they do know, and all the provisions in the agreement are triggered by known locations. So it doesn't apply to a kind of in a blanket way to areas within the district. But the intention of the agreement was deliberately to not force a renegotiation if a new location is determined. And the part of that agreement that describes the locations is just intended for information purposes to give you folks some sense of where they have been in the past. So it allows planning department to know that, you know, to look, for example, and see do environmentally sensitive development permit areas cover those areas and allow for planning to occur in those sites. And yeah, so it's just not as simple a matter of putting a map. And if you want to know in general terms what area it applies to, it's the whole district potentially. But it wouldn't be every part of the whole district. It just would be the nest trees where active nesting is occurring by screech owls, which is, as I said, likely to be no more than 5 occurrences at the best in the next few years, and more likely in the neighborhood of 1 or 2 or less. Could be none.
So the best management practices that you expect don't automatically apply to every area that's
No.
shown on the map here, just
No, it
where,
doesn't.
just within the, where there's a nesting
Yeah,
group
and
that's found?
the stewardship agreements are written, they're meant to be mainly a communication tool to sort of focus and say, these species are important, here's what we'd like you to think about, we're gonna have some responsibilities, you guys are gonna have some responsibilities. There's what I would describe as lots of wiggle room. So they're not trying to put you in a box and say, you will do certain things. And the most constrained provisions that are in those agreements relate to no-one nest sites and the inability to disturb the sites when they're active nests ongoing, so when there are eggs and babies. And those provisions already exist in law. They exist in provincial law and federal law. So they're really just reinforcing laws that are already in place. It doesn't change the responsibilities that are there. It's an education thing.
So there's nothing that restricts us. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I don't really know what it means to me if there's some municipal land here that we want to, say, turn into farmland, and it has some cottonwood trees or some aspen trees and such. Does that mean there's some approvals required or anything? Or?
It means that if there's a no nest site
Yeah, okay.
on there, that you are committing to some responsibilities there. But it's not a substitute for a wildlife tree policy. It doesn't constrain the ALR lands with respect to management of those areas. That's my understanding of the agreement, my read of it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Carlson.
Is the stewardship agreement something that every other community in the Okanagan has signed on to?
So the agreements relate to where the critters are found. So not every other community has signed on because the critters don't exist in every other community. And, you know, because I don't work in all the communities, I'm not familiar with where every screech owl nest is in the Okanagan. But I know that there are other communities where they exist, and I know that at least some of those communities have signed on to stewardship agreements. I'm not aware of any that have been asked to sign agreements and have refused. That's possible, but I'm not aware of it.
Councillor Peak.
Yes, do people make it known to you if they are ornithologists or members of clubs, and they're on the lookout for this kind of nesting?
Yes, they make it known to Ian, or they make it known to provincial government folks. There are pretty intensive inventories going on that the federal government is supporting on a yearly basis, because it's the screech owl is listed under the Species at Risk Act, and they are being expected to identify critical habitat, and as part of that, they're doing inventories. So if you're asking, do we know where they are, generally speaking, yes, we do. From year to year, there might be some small changes, but there's not 1,000 of them out there that we're unaware of. There's been enough work that there's a high degree of comfort. As you guys probably know, there aren't a lot of cottonwood trees out there, and that's their preferred nesting habitat. So throughout the Okanagan, one of the reasons they're at risk is because there's so few remaining cottonwoods, and they're shifting to yellow pine because they don't have a choice, and it's not as good habitat for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell.
The other question I had was concerning the Rocky Mountain Ridge mussel one. Our beach at Peach Orchard is eroding away, it was originally created by dredging from the lake and putting material on the shoreline. Would this preclude us from rebuilding the bridge that way? Or, I mean, the lake, the beach, not the bridge, the beach.
So Ian, maybe you can help me out with this, because I'm not sure where that spatially is relative to what they've mapped.
I'm just going to see if I can pull that map up a bit. There we go. So it is our beach. There's Crescent Beach area is one spot, and there's the marina right there. So north of the marina through our Rotary Beach and out past the boat launch is all noted. And so essentially what we're doing is agreeing to not disturb the lake bed in those areas. And if we do, we're to undertake mitigation measures to protect the Rocky Mountain ridged mussel.
I think he's captured it pretty well. The intention is to focus on those red areas. The intention is to avoid disturbance of them. There is wiggle room in the agreement to allow for things that are not foreseen. I think if council had concerns about specific areas that they didn't feel they could make those commitments about, then it would be good to communicate those to the province. You know, something else that Ian and I talked about that might be useful in understanding this, a lot of times when I get asked about this, because I provide advice to other local governments as well, I work with the regional district and I work in the South Okanagan, and I work with other, occasionally with other local governments as well. And a lot of times people will say, why is this our job? The federal government has SARA and, you know, the Species at Risk Act. Why should we be doing this? And so it might help to give you a little bit of context around the legislation. So the federal legislation protects specifically, explicitly in the Act, protects federal land. So Indian reserves, anything that is owned by the federal government is managed by the federal government. But as you folks know, the provincial lands are not under the federal government's direct jurisdiction, so they really don't have the power to regulate that in an easy fashion. So that power it rests with the province and is delegated down to you for private land. So under the Species at Risk Act, there's an expectation through an accord, an agreement between the province and the federal government, that the province, with help from local governments, will provide equivalent or effective protection that's similar to what's provided for under the Act for those lands that it has jurisdiction on. So stewardship agreements are a way of demonstrating to the federal government and for the province and you guys to say, yes, we're doing this, without ending up in a situation where there's something called an emergency order that can be put into place by the federal government, and then they essentially come in and usurp the power of local governments or the provinces because they don't feel adequate work is being done. That's happened once. It happened in Alberta related to sage grouse. It could certainly happen here because this is a biodiversity hotspot for Canada. It's, depending on how you measure it, it's the second or third most diverse place in Canada. So if they're going to use things like emergency orders, this is a place where they might use them. And, you know, also for context, you folks are considered early adopters and good stewards. So if they're approaching you, it's partly because they have confidence in the work that you're doing and they think that you can help them demonstrate that they're doing a good job. Not
Thank
to
you.
flatter
Councillor
you, but
Holmes.
that's how they see it.
I'm just wondering, what are the obligations of private property owners who in the red there, who under the stewardship agreement?
So I don't think there's anything explicitly that private property owners are not signing on to this. There are expectations of private property owners, and they're delivered through other mechanisms. So this is only one tool by which, you know, species at risk protection is enabled. So this is one that they tend to use with governments, and they do on occasion have stewardship agreements with private landowners, but I'm not aware of any in this area. There would certainly be stewardship activities going on, and generally speaking, they're looked at as voluntary. So at this point, the federal government is looking for cooperative landowners to work with them.
But
Yes.
for the mussel here, I mean, some of this land, I mean, obviously the mussels are in the water, but the land adjoining the water some of that's private.
Right. And so for mussels, one of the main interests would be things like docks or dumping beach sand, for example. And so those mechanisms are regulated. You have a little bit in your bylaw around that, but the major regulation is dealt with by an interaction between the private landowner and the province. So they work out the details. And in the north and central Okanagan, there are areas where you actually can't get a dock because of concerns related to, I think it's kokanee. But here, I'm not aware that that's the position that the province is taking, so they're working cooperatively with landowners, but they would be more careful in areas where there are mussels. So it would be more difficult to meet the requirements there.
Councillor Boot and Councillor Barkwell.
You mentioned just a moment ago about the dumping of beach sand, and I notice in the operational best management practices, it says, where does it say it? Beach maintenance will not include the introduction of sand.
Mhm.
Does that mean additional sand, or does it mean like it does?
It means, yeah, what they're trying to do is encourage the maintenance of normal habitat, just like mussels on beaches in the ocean. They need substrate that's suitable, like something to grab onto, to hold onto, and sand isn't very suitable. So they like a bit of a rocky kind of bottom, and so if you put a lot of sand in there, then it can potentially eliminate them. It can also bury them, so.
Okay.
But there are sandy areas naturally, and there are areas that have had sand there. I don't think this agreement says anything about removing the sand that's already there.
Okay.
Councillor Barkwell.
It says one of the best management practices is no new structures to be placed in the water, docks, boat launches, etc. So that would apply to all the publicly owned foreshore, but the private people could still put in their docks and such.
I think the private people would be negotiating independently, and that's probably a question for the province about how they would deal with that. But, you know, I'm not sure, because I'm not involved directly in authorizing docks, but my understanding is it's a separate process.
So one of the, boat launches, so if we wanted to put in another boat launch because ours was crowded, then this would basically preclude that?
I don't think it goes that far. Do you want to address that again?
Planner, could you? add-
Sure. What they're saying is that we'd rather you didn't do any of this stuff, but if it was an issue that was important to the community and they wanted another boat launch in one of those red areas, then as part of the permitting and getting construction authorization, we'd have to do mitigation and either make another area somewhere else or dig them up and replace them or do something in conjunction with the province that would protect the mussels and still allow the district to do what they want.
What is a mitigation measure with a mussel? Like, what can you do? What's practical?
Gosh, that's a really site-specific question. So what they'd be seeking is to try to protect the habitat from impacts. So it would depend on where the mussels are and where you wanted to put the boat launch. I don't think you could give you a generic answer to a question like that. So, you know, my read of so when Ian and I discussed this, my thought was if you think there are places in those red areas where you have to have a dock, where you can't put docks elsewhere, that it would be a good opportunity to have that conversation with the province now, sooner rather than later, because it's only going to get less flexible. And I mean, these are not, like, the province is not seeking to put Summerland in a box. At some level, the mussels are where they are an at-risk species, there is legislative protection already. So what this is helping Summerland understand that there are constraints. So even if you didn't sign the agreement, if you tried to put a dock in there, you'd still face the same sorts of issues. So really this is about grappling with an understanding of what this means and helping everyone who lives in Summerland understand there's some limitations here. And, you know, I think, again, because the province is dealing with these things, for me to answer a question like that and tell you how they would deal with it, I could take you down a garden path and I'd be wrong. I could guess how I would deal with it, but that's a question for the province, I think.
Thank you. I have one question. What about where there's berms in place or docks, et cetera, and you have normal accretion taking place with sand movement and so on because of a pre-existing situation? Is that considered sort of normal shifting of the geography and topography?
I'm not aware that anything in this agreement addresses accretion processes or constraints or creates an expectation that that would change or
Okay,
anything else. I
okay.
mean, nature is doing what nature's doing, and what this agreement's about is managing development
Okay,
impacts
gotcha.
on the habitat.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions by council? Okay, can, let's have somebody, move the, thank you, Councillor Holmes.
I move that council enter into a 2015-2019 stewardship agreement for the Rocky Mountain Ridge Mussel and the Western Screech Owl as proposed by the Ministry of Forest, Lands and Natural Resources, and that the mayor be authorized to execute the 2015-2019 stewardship agreements for Rocky Mountain Ridge Mussel and Western Screech Owl.
Seconder, please, Councillor Carlson, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? We've got some questions, Councillor Carlson.
It was really helpful having an overview, and I think that I've learned something from it, and this makes sense to move forward because it's the right thing to do.
Anything else? I think, you know, when I look at it from the municipality's point of view, it's a tool for managing our situation as we move forward with any developments, any changes, and so on and so forth. And because I was impressed with the, you know, when Councillor Barkwell said he'd read every word, there's a lot there that covers a lot of situations, and I'm sure with your ongoing communication with our planning department, for example, and Public Works, that this kind of information will come into play as things arise. So this is just sort of cements an understanding and an obligation that we will continue to do that, as far as I can see. Councillor Traynor.
I learned a lot tonight, so thank you very much for coming. I think that we kind of owe it to the district and to future generations to take these steps. They're not asking too much, and the language is, you know, fairly not loose, but we can interpret it as we need to. So I think this is, you know, a really important step, and I'll be supporting it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, I was going to add, there's only, you know, possibly 1 or 2 nests, as you were saying. So that's not very many. So I would want to protect those two if they're, you know, if they were here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Thank you. So can we have all in favor, please? Thank you. The motion is carried. No opposed. Okay, so thank you very much, Ms. Pete, for being here, and I'm impressed. Thank you very much. I learned a lot too, and I'm glad we met you. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to 10.2, potential running track at Summerland Secondary School. And this is up for questions and understanding from our planner, I would imagine. So, Development Services, would you like to enlarge on that topic a bit,
Yes.
please?
Let me just find the right slide here. So there's a bit of history with respect to this item, and the best we've been able to do, because it's predates my employment here, is that the McDonald Elementary School was located at the current site of the Summerland Secondary School playing field, which is basically in this area right here is where McDonald School used to be. It was demolished in the late 1990s to allow for construction of a new middle school, which is now over here. And the Jubilee Road was realigned with that construction project as part of that. And there was a talk, if we put on the map here, this is where a drawing showing what was going to be built. And the green area indicates where there was provision allowed for a running track should one wish to be built there. And so all of the information that we've been able to detect suggests that there was talk of it at the time, there was provision made for it, but there was no agreements in place by anybody to construct the track.
Thank you. CAO, could you please flesh that out a bit, please?
Yeah, just to note that this is on the agenda. It was brought forward by the Heritage Advisory Commission, they do state in their letter that they have never received a formal response to their understanding that there was a formal agreement in place. The two response letters from the school board are attached, one from this year and one from 3 years ago, stating that that there was no agreement. So what the recommendation staff is making is that we formally respond so that it's on record. And from our research, there is no formal agreement that was made at the time.
Okay, thank you. So, as it stands, there's nothing in place with the school board at all over that duration of time?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peak.
Yeah, I'm pleased that
This is questions of staff for the CAO?
A question of staff. I'm glad that there were records available for us to look at, and it's useful to have it presented to us.
Any other questions of staff? Councillor Barkle.
Doctor, this maybe before I'll preface my questions with a little background, since I'm on the...
This is a question, or...?
Yeah, I'm prefacing the question.
Okay.
Since I'm on the Heritage Commission with... this was initiated by Dr. Gregory, who was on council at the time, who is quite convinced that there was an agreement. Don Cameron was the mayor at the time. They spoke to him. Don says, oh yes, I remember there was an agreement, but nobody can find any documentation at this time. I think Don Cameron is quite an archivist, and he's, at the last I'd heard, hadn't yet gone into his records to see if he could find anything in writing. I can't feel very optimistic, because I really think that if there was anything, it would have been produced before now, like maybe 10 years ago. But he asked, there was an email to you, Ian, to look somewhere in our records. Did you do that and not find anything? Or what was he asked you to look for?
They were looking to see if we had any records of any agreement, Mr. Mayor, as well. And our staff did go into the archive and have a look around the time, late 90s, when this was going on. And our records don't appear to be as good as Dr. Gregory's records, because we asked him to send us all his information as well, which he did, and we reviewed, and there was nothing we could find
And
either.
further to that, this afternoon, we did find or review the actual file of the construction during the time, and in that there was no agreements either. But then it should be remembered that even if there was an agreement, the discussion right now would be whether or not this council and this school board wanted to nobody can fetter a council's decision-making. So if there was an agreement, the conversation should be, is this how we want to move forward or not? Not so much, is there a past agreement or not?
Thank you. So we finished with questions for staff? Thank you. Someone please, now, how do we want to word the CAO? Right now it's that we discuss this. So is there some resolution to bring a letter forward to, say, the Heritage Commission? Or is that not necessary?
Yep, I would think that council would want to consider the resolution that that you reviewed the correspondence, and that, to your knowledge, there is not an agreement in place, and that we'll be continuing to further discussions with school board on a number of issues, but not in relation to this specific proposed agreement. Something to that effect.
Okay. So.
But basically, we give a formal response to the
Yes.
letter.
So essentially, do you have anything down on computer there at all? Okay. Just, you're gonna get caught.
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm just going to take it out of my head, so if I
No,
don't
that's
get it
fine.
right, you
Go
can
ahead,
tell me.
please. Yeah.
Recommendation for direction to staff to send a letter in response to this request, that we have searched our records, and that, to our knowledge, we cannot come up with any agreement that was done formally. That council, as always, has the opportunity to continue to have discussions with the school board should the occasion arise that we have funds available to do this kind of project. and that in fact in the next year there will be a recreation plan going forward for the District of Summerland, and perhaps people within the public domain may bring this idea forward. Does that
You got
work?
all that?
You know what? We were into paragraph 3.
I'm sorry.
Let's see now, we're looking at the intent of your comments, and that essentially there's directing staff to respond with a letter to the Heritage Commission, that no agreement with the school board was found in the search in our archives, and that this council will be proceeding with discussions with the school board on, we're proceeding with the discussions with the school
If
board.
there are ever funds available.
But-
mutual
Well,
benefit.
On mutual benefit topics or something like that, because the issue of the, let's deal with the motion at first here, okay?
Fair enough.
Councillor Holmes, have you got a
Well,
wordsmithing?
just to clarify that, I don't want us to say that, we'll do it if funds ever become available, because
Exactly.
we don't know if that's what the committee wants.
I believe it should just be that you'll continue to explore mutually beneficial projects with the school board.
Yes. Okay, yeah,
That's
I think
sensible.
that's the
That's
intent of your
sensible.
comment, yeah. So we're pretty much there. We'll maybe do some smithing a bit. Councillor Carlson?
No, we're gonna put.
We have to have a seconder.
I'll second it,
Okay, thank you.
assuming it's complete.
Yep. Okay, we'll get it sort of read back here in a shake.
Mutually beneficial
Projects.
Are we saying anything about the letter regarding previous records?
I think it just needs to be that council respond, we don't have to say direct, that we send a letter, that council respond to the Heritage Advisory Commission.
And continue to explore mutually beneficial projects?
Sound good? Okay, do you want to read that back to us, please?
The council will respond to the Heritage Advisory Commission and continue to explore mutually beneficial projects.
To indicate that no, that there's no evidence of an agreement regarding a running track.
It's in the conclusion here.
Yeah,
Conclusion.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Attempt this. That council will respond to the Heritage Advisory Commission to indicate that there's no evidence to indicate that there's an agreement for a running track, and to continue to explore mutually beneficial projects
With the school board?
With the school.
with the school
With the
board.
school board.
With the school board.
Thank you. I think that's your intent, Councillor Peak?
That's fine.
Good,
It's
thank you.
simpler.
Well, I know you were right on with what you were trying to say, so. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Trainer.
I think that because, this is kind of jumping ahead a bit, but because we do have the room, I think when we go to do our recreation plan, we can definitely ask people if this is something that they want us to explore in the future. And I can definitely see tracks being used by multiple groups. And I also thought about this a bit more. If we do decide to build one day, perhaps in addition to working with the school board, we could look at community groups and sponsorships of the tracks, because that's how a lot of them are done now. They're not just done by, two governing bodies. They bring in other people from the community, and that's how they get built. So that's something to consider over the
Well,
next couple of years.
I think, if I can add, this information regarding the potentiality of a track is now 20 years old. And so discussions have gone on for some time. Changes have taken place with regard to people's intention on recreation and so on. And so all those factors have to be taken into consideration, because there are some other things that have come to council's attention over the last year and a half regarding potential use of that site in conjunction with the school board. So you know, just as a last add-on, my son happens to be a track coach in Penticton, and virtually no one is going out for track. He can't get people to train and show up. So things are changing in the recreation world.
I'll just
Councillor
add,
Carlson.
add my piece. I was in grade 6 when the middle school was built, and I went to McDonald School, and I remember the discussion about the rubber track, because we were going to get one, and it was going to be like Penticton's, because McDonald School had the best track team in the valley. And, you know, Justin Cripps was like awesome then, and he's even more awesome now. And that all of that discussion happened, I guess that's only 15 years ago. And, you know, if I remember it as a 12-year-old kid, I imagine that people who are here and were involved in politics remember it as well. So I can understand the confusion, and I hope that at some point in time we can all sort of let sleeping dogs lie and talk about what we can move forward on that will benefit everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I just want to add that, yeah, again, whatever happened, whatever was said 20 years ago may not be applicable today, and if you talk to a lot of users of that facility today, there's this idea of having a track there is there's not a widespread agreement that this is a good thing. Right now there's 2 playing fields there. You put a track in, that eliminates one of the playing fields, and so there are, I know of one person sitting at this table who wouldn't be too happy with the tennis courts being removed to put a track in. So there are other things that are going to happen because of that. So it's not. I just don't agree that this assumption that it's a great thing that we put the track right there is going to be great for the community.
I think probably it's well said. So I think probably we need to move ahead. We've got the motion in place. Should we move ahead on the vote, please? All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. None opposed. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to 10.3. Now, CAO, would you like to direct the traffic here, please?
And that one we'll turn over to Ian McIntosh, our Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is our Urban Growth Strategy revised OCP amendment. The background is in the staff report. I'm not going to go through that in any detail. Basically, to suggest for those that are interested, the current urban growth area is shown on the screen in yellow, and we've all seen this before. The first proposed urban growth area is shown as a red line there and took in 2 areas of ALR. The amendment that's before council today removes those areas of ALR and adds back in a little piece of Deer Ridge, which will not be removed, and a little piece down on Victoria Road South that will not be removed. So the revisions essentially here are to remove the areas of ALR. That's very clear. Remove a smaller portion of the Victoria Road South, so the green area will stay. Right now it's all in. And the Deer Ridge area will be left in. So that is the current proposal before council as an amendment. Again, what remains unchanged from the original OCP amendment, all since the very beginning, is that the urban growth area identifies where additional growth and density is supposed to go in Summerland. It does not include industrial development, as that is not an urban land use. Should not include land-intensive uses for golf courses, ski hills, or similar recreational uses, so they can be outside the boundary. And the urban growth area will not affect existing zoning rights. So if you have zoning rights and you find yourself outside the boundary, you still keep those rights and can still develop. So again, as unchanged from the original proposal, is the Summerland Hill Golf Resort neighborhood plan designation is being removed. The Hunters Hill area is being removed. The Jersey Lands neighborhood plan is being removed, and the Crescent Beach area is being removed. So again, those are all unchanged from the original proposal. The urban growth area is essentially 50% smaller than it was originally or is now. It provides for more than 10 years of growth into the future. It has no impact on the ALR, and it was supported by comprehensive public participation. So the current growth area is what's shown in yellow, and what is going now to what is shown as green. So again, there's what we have today, and if this passes, that will be the result. So mapping changes, again, these are unchanged from the original. So what is being proposed is the Summerland Hills Golf Resort area, shown there in a purple hatch, is being changed on our community plan future vision, our land use designations, to a combination of open land, which is essentially a holding designation that says we don't really know what we want to do in that area as yet. It is beyond the horizon. A portion of agriculture and a portion of resource industrial to allow for gravel extraction. And the Jersey Lands neighborhood plan area is changing again to open land. So that is essentially the bylaw that is before you.
Thank you.
And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Anything to add, CAO?
No, just one small comment to Mr. McIntosh's comment that on the O, when he said the first O's that came up for future, it's for future discussion. Understood that there has not been a lot of discussion on that area, and therefore putting it into, as he said, holding pattern to enable part 2 of this step, which is to have consultation and discussion on what would happen in that, what is the best plan for that area.
That's the map that's up there right now.
That's right.
You open that, right, thank you. Okay, any questions of staff? Councillor Carlson?
Why dedicate that land as agriculture and not open land?
The only reason, Mr. Mayor, in this exercise is because there's been discussion and the bylaws that have been debated so far show that area as agriculture. If we're going to suggest that that should be open land, that discussion has not happened yet, so we would have to go back to the public and ask them that question and go through the referral process to determine whether there was any concern over designated it as open land.
Okay, Councillor Carlson?
When was it first dedicated as agricultural land? Was it prior to 2013 when it was discussed as, potentially being okay for some agriculture?
The designation was before February 11th of 2013, I believe, or 2014, I'm not sure now. It was designated as the Summerland Hills Golf Resort area. And the only discussion in the public so far has been to change it as shown on that map. So part of it has been proposed for agriculture, part of it proposed for resource and industrial, and part of it proposed for open land, and that was first presented to council in February of 2014, I
Councillor
believe.
Carlson?
So if we left it as open instead of agriculture, would it impact the discussion that follows if we make this change to the urban growth area?
No, it would not impact the discussions going forward. It just means that that is a change that has not been debated technically through the public process, so we would have to go back and refer again and say, now we're proposing to make the A parts O. Do you have any concern or interest in that bylaw, which has not been debated yet?
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peak?
Yes, certainly the discussion within the public has been that agriculture is a use that seems consistent in that area. Therefore, I would endorse the way the report is presented to us in passing it this evening.
Okay, just like to make a comment that, that area that's designated A or is green and the O is essentially, as our CAO pointed out a minute ago, is going to be part of future consultation for that area, and we need a broad and good conversation with the public about what their aspirations are for that area. And so that will sort of be phase 2, as she explained. What we're doing now is putting in place the urban growth area as has been described by our planner, and that allows for continued, to finalize that portion of it. So that's pretty much where it leaves us, isn't it, Mr. Planner, that
That's correct.
we will be sort of cementing in place our urban growth area at this point, and then we'll have future discussions on the disposition and future of the other area?
That is correct. The only clarification is that if the bylaw gets second reading tonight, there will be a public hearing, not next meeting, but the one after, July 27th, and then once the public hearing is over, then council could
Okay.
either adopt or not.
Thank you.
And then that would put it in place.
Okay, can I have somebody, if we're all finished with questions of staff, have we? Thank you. Can someone please bring the recommendation forward, and then we can have more discussion if we so desire. Councillor Boot?
That second reading of bylaw 2014-002, official community plan 2014 be rescinded, and that bylaw 2014-002, official community plan 2014 as amended be given second reading, and further, that a public hearing be scheduled for Monday, July the 27th, 2015.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak. Any further discussion? Councillor Carlson.
I still struggle with the words uncomprehensive public process and all of what we went through, because I know a lot of people did not participate, and I don't want to do it for another 18 months and go through this whole thing again, but I do believe that there's a lot of voices that perhaps didn't come out because they didn't think that they were going to be listened to, and I know we're going to listen to them, so I'm still not sure about this.
Okay, well, I think I'll try and relieve your tension a little bit, because over the last year and a half, the discussion was centered on whether ALR land should be developed or not, and the only allowable way that would happen is if there was a way to swap land out or in to allow for the ag land to be used as housing. And that discussion really centered on the agricultural land in question, as well as the, it just happened that the ability to try and do any kind of swapping in a significant manner was land out in the West Prairie Valley. But it really could have been almost anywhere in the community, because essentially that discussion did not talk about the future of West Prairie Valley. It was dealing with the potential use of agricultural land for residential, and it looked at the urban growth area as was described in the last year and a half. And I think the public made it extremely clear with some large open houses, plus coupled with the election. I think they gave voice to their concerns that they would be only happy if those ag lands were not developed, and that they indicated where development should take place in terms of residential housing, and that really involved what was essentially called the first phase of the Sustainable Solutions discussion for the community. The second phase is what you're, I think, referring to, Councillor Carlson, that did not have much participation and really felt that it wasn't conducted in a fashion that was meaningful. So I think what we're doing here is going with the public input. Also, their pretty explicit input with regards to the election, and their intent was do not use agricultural land for development, and they gave preference for other areas which are now delineated by the urban growth boundary as our planner has outlined. But I don't believe, and I think this was brought up earlier, a number of weeks ago, when we decided to postpone discussions, it became clear that the West Prairie Valley area had never received adequate discussion and consultation with the public. So what we did was we broke it into essentially two phases. We felt that the first phase could be done soundly and with confidence, but we needed to have further discussions, in other words, phase two, to talk about the West Prairie Valley lands. So anything that's been discussed about West Prairie Valley, I think will be open for discussion by all parties that have been involved, including all members of the public. And so those discussions will take place over a time frame yet to be determined. But what we're doing now by setting in place this urban growth boundary as has been described is setting in place some certainty for the community, setting in place certainty for our development community. They will know now where things can occur for housing development and future growth with this urban growth boundary. And so what has bothered me over the last number of years is the lack of certainty for the development community as to what was going to happen in Summerland. Because if you purchase a piece of land and you proceed to do things, you know what the zoning is on it, etc., or you know what the overall intent is. But until you have things cemented in place with a firmly established and accepted OCP, there isn't adequate certainty for the development community. And in other words, the community cannot move forward in an expeditious and confident way without the firm delineation of an urban growth area. So I think that's, what this this motion does for us, is to allow the community to move forward in future discussions on West Prairie Valley, but it also allows us to get moving on the rest of the community. Councillor Carlson and Councillor Holmes.
Just a note that if this does go forward, I'd really like to see everyone invited to the public hearing.
You bet.
Last time, I guess I didn't get, the message didn't get across well enough, and it was quite short notice, so I think that there has to be more effort in the communication to the people and say, this is the solution that we are coming up with. Come and give us your input. And once again, I think there's going to be people that don't get it and aren't happy, but it's a first step, and it maybe shouldn't be as complicated as it is, and it shouldn't have become such a big issue, but it is, so we still have to make sure that everyone understands and we tell them in as clear a communication as possible.
I think the intent of this council is to, in as many ways as possible, to engage the public, and certainly in this public hearing on the 27th. And so that's the intent. Councillor Traynor.
I just have a quick comment. During our committee meetings over the last while, which were all open to the public, I think that they were very thorough. Like, we had a lot of really good discussions, and I feel quite confident in this. And I think basically what we're saying here is that our vision for Summerland at this point doesn't include a golf course out West Prairie Valley, but that in phase 2 we're open to other possibilities, and that's what we're going to explore. And I would really invite as many people as possible to come to the public hearing on the 27th.
Yes.
And add anything that they want to.
Well, that public hearing will be dealing with
Yeah.
the OCP and the
Yes.
urban growth area.
Yeah.
It will be further discussions beyond that.
Right.
Engaging the community for Prairie Valley West. I think
Yeah.
that should be clear. Councillor Holmes.
I think we kind of have it nailed for the development community. I don't think, I think they can rest assured now. But my concern before was the West Prairie Valley, and that we hadn't properly consulted with the community. I didn't have a feel of what the community wanted for West Prairie Valley. And I'm concerned about that, that agricultural land there, because I'm not convinced that the community wants that land agricultural. So I don't see why those aren't O's as well until we hear from the community about the whole West Prairie Valley area.
Well, that's a good comment, but I think this is what's presented to us now, and I think, CAO, do you have any comment to that?
Just that, as Mr. McIntosh pointed out, this was what was being considered at the beginning. I think that council's option really would, if you weren't okay moving forward on this one, which is the last piece that was actually consulted on, you would need to abandon this bylaw altogether and start the process all over again. And so there's really two, because there hasn't been consultation, so you would have to go back and start on that, which is an option that you could do. It's not the recommendation from the select committee, but what they're saying here is that this gives you a starting place, because this council needs to get to a starting place to be able to then start move forward and saying, this one's ours to start, and now we're going to start a new process and start to get the consultation and make the changes that you need to from there. So
I think what should be clear is that the area designated as A is not in the ALR, right? Mr. Planner?
That's
So
correct.
What it is it's within the municipality's zoning as agricultural land, but it certainly is not ALR land. So that way, I think, Councillor Holmes, that there's room for discussion as a disposition and what will take place in that area, and I think that's what the community needs to do. I wouldn't be terribly concerned about the A's right now, because I don't believe anything's in cement and stone at this point on the West Prairie Valley area. So I think the discussion will be quite open, And the community, given that it's not ALR land, has the ability to discuss. And I think we should leave that for the community to determine. But I'd like to see us move forward right now so that we can, move ahead. We've had lots of discussion about the handling of ALR land that's already ALR land, and the housing areas, development areas, and I think we need to make certain the first step, put that in place, then we can have further discussions on Westbury Valley. Councillor Boot, then Councillor Barkwell.
If I have this correct, I think that it might make you feel a little bit better, Councillor Holmes, and perhaps Councillor Carlson. The A that shows there as agriculture is not zoned agriculture, is designated agriculture. Am I correct there?
That's correct.
Okay, to me, that's a big difference, and it took several conversations and meetings to get that through my head, that there is a significant difference between the two. It's not zoned agriculture, it's just designated that. Big difference.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
I share the concerns over on that side of the table. I didn't quite follow the rationale of why that remained as an A as agriculture when all the other lands was also as agriculture. When did it become agriculture, Mr. McIntosh? What was it?
The designation of that property has, since 2008, been the Summerland Hills Golf Resort Neighborhood Plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the OCP designation up until right now, and it remains that way. This, if it passes, will change that Summerland Hills Golf Resort vision to a bunch of open land,
Mhm.
a bit of resource industrial, and a bit of agriculture. The zoning underlying doesn't change, and there will still have to be more process if that is going to follow along in this vein.
But so in the discussions we had, prior, like a year ago, what was it discussed to, as becoming this particular designation, and the O's were discussed as becoming agriculture as part of the swap?
The A land was considered as part of the swap. That's been there since the very beginning, and the rest of it was all O because we didn't have a vision for what could go out there, so we were just going to leave it as essentially undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
And the resource industrial was to allow for the gravel extraction to happen. So this was the very first proposal that was vetted in the public, February of 2013 or 14, whenever it was.
It just seems a little inconsistent to designate O's and A's, some of it O, some of it A. But as Mayor Waterman said, if we really, in our discussions, I guess we can consider it all as being open land. I mean, it'll all form part of our discussion. And if council decides to change it, we can change it. So I'm gonna try and lose my hang up about the exact current designation. And I think that's one of the problems the public has had. They feel like we're making a major change here, and from the correspondence I received, but really we're just leaving it for a future discussion. Step
Right.
2, as Mr. Waterman said. So I'm getting more comfortable with it.
Councillor Holmes.
Just, okay, if we're leaving for the further discussion, just explain to me again why it can't be a no. I mean, why? This to me it seems, if we all agree that we're gonna think of it as open land anyway, and it's gonna come to open discussion, then why isn't it a no?
Mr. Mayor, that's a technical and very confusing answer to that question, but any OCP amendment has to go through a fairly prescriptive process that involves consultation with a whole bunch of government agencies, with a PIB, with the school district. There has to be advertised in the paper a couple of times, has to be public hearings. There's a great long process. If we want, we're not saying that you can't do that and it shouldn't be O. What we're saying is if you want to make it O, we have to follow through on all that process. And so far, we haven't done that. All we've done for process is what you see up there.
Okay.
That followed through that whole process. So if council wants to make it O, then we rescind the reading of this one, we go back, draft up a bylaw that might be O, go through the referral process and all the public hearings and all the rest of it, and then in due course, you can vote on whether you'd like it to be O. That can certainly be done. It's just a technicality that right now, where we are, we can't introduce O at this late stage.
Thank you. So essentially, we're looking at, if we want to move ahead, this is the status quo. We're going to end up discussing the options we have down the road.
Well, yes, once this bylaw is, and again, the CAO put it perfectly, the two essential choices are adopt the one we have where we've gone through a process that supports that in terms of legality process, or abandon it, go back to the way we are today, and then start the process again. So we can either start from sort of halfway there and still consider all of that in the future, which is the intent, or we can go back to the beginning and then have a discussion about what we do out there. Either
So back
one.
to the beginning, where is the beginning, Mr. Planner?
The beginning is
Way back.
way back.
That's right.
That
That's
is the
what I
beginning.
want council to be clear on.
Yes, back to the beginning means we abandon the bylaw amendment that we've been debating so far. We go back to the 2008 OCP the way it is up there, and then we start a process to determine if we want to make a change to the urban growth boundary or what designations.
And we're looking at how many years before we get to where we could be right now?
It would be a number of
2.
months for certain.
I think we're looking at 2 years.
So it's just important to consider it perhaps step one is making the amendment to the urban growth area, and that the designations are what's being discussed in the upcoming one. And you're going back to the latest document that on those designations. So if you were to move forward on this one.
Yes, Councillor Holmes.
Okay, I might be a bit thick, then, but then
It's
why
okay.
didn't we have to go through all this palaver with all the other changes we made?
Because, go ahead.
Only
Mr. Planner.
because all the other changes that were made were fully discussed and debated and in front of the public and previous councils. So the A designation, if I can go back to the slide here. So this configuration was presented to the public, was fully debated, was the subject of public hearings, and regardless of whether anybody agrees that it was done appropriately, it met the legal test. So we can move forward with this and then continue to step 2. If we want to make the A and O, that doesn't satisfy the legal test because nobody's seen that yet. So we would have to go back and say, we don't want to do A's there, we want to do O's there, redo the circulation process, redo the notice, have new public hearings, and then
Okay.
you could certainly adopt that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carlson.
When we go to having this second step, the opportunity for the urban growth boundary to expand back towards West Prairie Valley exists?
Yes. Certainly does. I think what we're trying to do, as I said before, is based on the consultations that taken place through the whole land swap issue, the ALR issue, et cetera, is there was substantial communication with the public about where they wanted residential growth, that they did not want agricultural land consumed, and that sets the boundary, that the urban growth boundary that the planners laid out for us. What was not discussed adequately was the future of West Prairie Valley, whatever that may be. And that's up to the community and everybody involved. And so, Councillor Peak, one more point.
I'd like to
and then
call a question.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I have somebody move? Would you like to move ahead on
It
that,
has
please?
been moved.
Okay, did we get there? Okay, yes, that's right, we did. Okay, I'd like to call for the vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is carried. So we're moving on to 11 point, am I correct?
11.1.
11.1. Grant and aid request from the Summerland Museum and Heritage Society, CAO.
You'll see, you have the package on, regarding the Summerland Museum and Heritage Society, but we'll also add to this a late request for grant and aid that we received just today. But because we're discussing it now, we wanted to add it into discussion. That is from the Summerland Minor Softball Association for a grant for the provincial tournament. And Director of Finance may have additional comments, or no? It's self-explanatory. It should be noted that we did receive the $6,000 back.
Yes, the check was for 4,600, 4,800. Some of it was an in-kind contribution, but the funds that we had given to the Summerland Exhibition Association have been returned to the district. And so that amount of budget, $6,000, is included in the numbers in front of you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff, please? Councillor Carlson.
We have a policy for grant and aid, and there's a couple of points on it, and I just wonder if, when we look at something from the museum, it says there can only be one application per organization or project, and then it also says the application must demonstrate that adequate funding from other sources is not available. And I just wonder, when you look at something where we've already given quite a large, they've received a large grant for this year, is that something we need to consider in this discussion and decision?
It certainly should be discussed in this discussion, especially since the initial application that they put in, council chose not to grant the full amount at the time. They originally asked for 40 and was awarded 35,000. So council already, when they were granted, determined not to give them a full amount.
Any further questions? Councillor Peak?
My memory on the museum request, the second request, was that they found they're having more difficulty with their computer system and using it with its present format and with the equipment they have, which I don't believe was a problem to the same degree when they applied for the original grant. So I point that out as being a difference in terms of why they're requesting the extra funds.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? If not, then I'd like to have someone move the recommendation, please.
There's actually
Councillor
not,
Sorry.
there's not a recommendation, a staff recommendation yet.
Okay.
It's for council to propose whether to grant a grant and aid and in what amounts for each organization.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I was just reading what was in front of me. What have we got here?
This is
That's the additional one. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we need to craft a new motion from what we have in here. Councillor Barkle?
I'll move that the council award a grant and aid to the Summerland Museum and Heritage Society for $3,600 for additional funding for their computer system.
And?
Will we do it all in one?
Yep.
You can do it.
Well, okay, if council.
If you
that
want.
might-
They might want.
I think we should do it in two.
If you want to consider it separately, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Councillor Carlson?
So, if the fall fair does go ahead by some means, this means that we wouldn't necessarily have the same amount of support to offer, correct? I mean, there's all kinds of rumors flying around about it, other ways of making it happen. If we give away all the money, or give away half of the money now, they'd have to apply again and ask again, and it would be a different thing.
Certainly not come to council's attention that there's any intention to revive it for this fall. So they've actually agreed to relinquish the money that was gifted to them for that, and we've decided that that was acceptable and allowed us to have the funding for this other purpose. So they would have to have come forward now. We're getting, the period's closing up, and I think the Fall Fair Association has made their intentions clear at this point. So we'll, okay, can we have a vote, please, or is there more comment?
Yeah, I just have one other question.
Yep.
Do you know, CAO, if there has been any fundraising activities on the part of the museum to help alleviate this $3,600 shortfall?
Typically, we don't do too much background discussion with them when they send letters to mayor and council. Lori, have you had any additional?
I'm not aware of
No.
any fundraising that's been undertaken.
Because that is, it is stated in our policy.
Yeah. Councillor Barkle.
I would think that the fundraising activities might apply more to some other types of groups rather than the Museum Society. It's pretty hard for a group like that to be out fundraising on a regular basis. It's, different. I view them as quite different. I can't say that I've sat at their computers and can confirm how bad they are, but I've heard anecdotally that they're in real bad shape and they really need to get something going here. It should be good for the next 10 years, I hope.
Well, the speed of change, maybe not, but
Yeah.
I think what I hear is that operationally they are hamstrung right now, and they need to be able to move ahead. So I'd appreciate it if we could deal with this. Councillor Peak, any more?
I'd like to deal with this. They do fundraise, and they do put monies as much as they can back into their own coffers. They recently worked with the Quest Foundation for fundraising with the fashion show. They really do work ahead in doing fundraising, but they obviously don't get enough to be able to cover
Yeah.
contingencies like this.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Carlson? No? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to 11.2.
No,
CAO.
no, you're
Oh, sorry, we have to do the second phase, yes. So we're now looking at the request from the Summerland Minor Softball Association for a travel grant. Yes, they unexpectedly were successful in moving towards the provincial championships. So it's relatively commonplace for council to support this kind of effort in the community. CFO or CAO, do you have anything to add? CFO?
No comments really. Travel grants up to a maximum of $500 are outlined in the policy.
Okay. So,
So I'll move
We-
a resolution.
yes, you can. I think we have to put an amount in there, don't we?
Mhm.
Yes.
Council consider a request and grant an aid for the Summerland and Minor Softball Association in the amount of $500.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Carlson.
We should probably give them some pins as well if we have any. That's always the best part of a tournament.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, for sure.
Trade them.
Well, I think any success, I think it's been pretty common policy that we're certainly appreciative of the efforts that various organizations go to, and when they're successful like this, I think the least the community can do is help them out to get to the tournament, and any help I'm pretty sure is well received. So, anybody anything to add to that? I think this is certainly a good thing to be able to do. So, call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. The motion is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. So I guess we have a rep here. So we'll, CFO, will we put a letter and going towards them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, we're on to 11.3, CAO,
Or 11.2.
or 11.2. We could do that one first.
Excellent. We'll turn this one over to CFO if you've got any additional comments to what's in your package.
So much rating here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report before you tonight is the 2014 Statement of Financial Information, the SOFI report. It is a requirement that all local governments and all levels of government, really the province, within the province, do this kind of reporting that outlines remuneration to staff. We also include the compensation for elected officials, any expenses incurred on behalf of those two groups, and payments to our vendors. So in addition to that requirement with the Financial Information Act, that this report come before council and be received, there is also a requirement in the Community Charter for council to consider the remuneration and expenses of elected officials once per year. So the report before you has information about both of those items. And sort of just the Coles Notes version on the amount that's included in the schedule of remuneration. The remuneration is the amount included on a T4 for employees of the district. So the actual salary plus any taxable benefits. So if there is health benefits, so our employee benefits or our medical services plan is a taxable benefit. And also if you have a personal use of a vehicle that the district owns and you use outside of your normal working hours, then that's included in that amount as well.
Okay. Any questions of our CFO? I'm waiting for a resident CGA to pop up with something. Hearing none?
I got my glasses on, she says.
Oops, you can't read, can you?
No,
Okay. Nothing? That's
no,
fine.
I went through it.
Good, okay, thank you.
Every letter, every number.
You are our counselor authority here in this area, so giving you a chance. Okay, can I have a motion, please? Councillor Holmes.
I move that council approve the District of Summerland 2014 Statement of Financial Information for filing with the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development.
Seconder, please. Councillor Barkwell. Okay, any further discussion? Okay. The vote, please. All in favor? None opposed. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Motion's carried. Okay. We're on to 11.3, HST Energy Credit for Residential Energy Use, CAO.
Okay, before I turn this over to the Director of Finance, just a note that we have been corresponding with the Ministry of Finance for determination on whether or not there was any other routes that we could take on this, and have concluded that other than the alternatives we talked to today, there's no more recourse through the ministry. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Coates.
Thank you. Before you tonight, Council, is the issue of mistakenly given HST energy credit for residential energy use. So as the result of an audit by the Minister of Finance staff, they requested that the district provide to them the electrical utility billings for a certain time period. And when they reviewed them, the area that they were looking at was mixed use on a bill. So if this account was for a property that had both residential and farm use, or both residential and home business use, those were the accounts that they focused on. And what they determined was that, in fact, the District of Summerland had mistakenly given the HST residential energy credit for the full amount of those bills to the account holders. That credit was the equivalent of 7% of the the 7% portion of the HST that corresponds to the PST equivalency. So prior to HST, residential energy use did not attract PST. When the HST came in, to be fair to residential users, the province put forward this energy credit program. It's very similar to when you got your gas at the pump for your vehicle. Your price didn't go up 7%. There was a point of sale rebate that happened at that time. same concept for this energy credit that was available. So if you were a straight residential use, you had no other use in your property, the district billed you the full amount of the HST, which has the 5% equivalence of GST and the 7% of the HST, so a 12% tax. We gave you a 7% equivalent credit. You ended up with your 5% tax, just like you had prior to HST. So the audit focused on these mixed-use accounts and, in fact, determined that we had, excuse me, mistakenly given out the credit to two different groups, the farm use mixed use and the home business use mixed use. There were 521 farm use accounts and 191 home business use accounts. So the total of that's, just over 700 accounts. So the district at the time of the audit, which was in the fall of 2013, paid the amount that was owing, and we have had that amount carried on our books as an accounts receivable or a recoverable amount, and that's where it is still today. So the report before you tonight is asking for council to consider the recommendation that that amount not be billed out to our customers, and the electrical utility absorb it as a cost of doing business. The reasons for asking for that decision are really considering the fact that the time frame that this covers is quite some time ago, 2012 and 2013. At that time, the residents, in fact, did receive a credit that they weren't entitled to, but in 2015, they will get a bill asking them to repay that amount. That bill will be a cost to our citizens. There is a bit of relief available related to their residential use. So if, for instance, a mixed-use farm was, say, 50-50 between residential use and farm use on electricity, then there is still a residential rebate available to them of the 50%. So we really don't know how much that might be, but they would be entitled to get that credit back, and it would be dependent on each case. Every individual account holder will have to determine how much rebate they may be eligible for. And I think that's my summary of the information before you tonight.
Okay. Questions of our CFO? Councillor Holmes.
Do you have any guesstimate of what sort of staff resources and time would be required to, if we decided that we'd want to collect the money?
We haven't done a full analysis on it, but it would require gathering the bills for each customer. So the 700 plus accounts, we'll have to gather up the information for that 15 months that this period covers, and summarize that information, produce a bill, send it out, collect the money. So my guess is that that is somewhere perhaps $7,500, maybe $10,000 in staff resources to gather all of that, put it into a billable format, produce the bills, mail them, explain it to the people, help them with their rebate applications, collect the money.
If properties have changed hands in between, that could become another issue. I have no idea how many have
Yes.
changed, but that would be another issue.
That's a good point, yes.
Councillor Carlson.
Do you have any idea what if let's look at $82,000 and 520 accounts, any idea what kind of money per household we'd be actually talking about?
Yes. I think I do. Just a second. I think there's quite a variety of amounts. There was 127 customers that were $100 or less. The highest value is $1,744. The majority, 238 customers, were between $100 and $200, and 99 customers between $200 and $300. That's the bulk of the customers.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Councillor Barkle.
So I just wanted to, I've had some correspondence with you on this,
Yep.
and I don't know if the rest of the council saw it, but it's my understanding, right, if we send them a bill, these people will, if it's business use, as the auditor claimed, because it was zoned residential or business or farm or business, that's purely how they decided that they weren't eligible for the point of sale rebate because the property was.
The farm was definitely on the assessment. So
Yeah,
if they
so-
had Class 9
Yeah.
property, they used that. For the mixed business use,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't rely solely on the assessment. They did some other investigation through the internet. So if people were advertising,
Mhm.
some short-term rentals
Yeah.
was one of the things that they looked at. Yeah.
So people would have claimed most likely the full amount of the HST on their bill and yet received the credit, so they've actually got the money that they would pay us back with already in their jeans from the input tax credit. And anybody who gets a bill and it's for residential use, they would be able to apply for the rebate. So there's really no cost to any of these 500 and I don't have the numbers here right in front of me, but all the people that would receive a bill, there'd be no out-of-pocket cost for them, correct?
That's correct. It's just that the refund has already come to them
Yeah.
back in 2012 or 2013, and the paying will happen in 2015.
So, I mean, I just don't see how we can walk away from, nearly $100,000 if it costs us $10,000 in staff time to do this billing. It's, we're way ahead, and we're not. It's only fair, and it's only fair to the people who have paid their full amount of their electricity bill that these people, not get payment from the rest of us. It's hard to describe. I've discussed it with other people, and not very many people understand the concept. If you do send the bill, you have to be, it'll be a lot of work to explain it.
Yeah,
But
10,000 may be a low estimate on staff time, I'm not sure. Yeah.
But really, they're not out of pocket to pay up what they owe. So I would be supporting that we don't write off this much money. That's just too much.
Councillor Holmes? Oh, Councillor Peak and Councillor Holmes, I'm sorry.
The fact that the people have received their money in advance and will then possibly receive a bill from the district, when you try to explain this kind of thing, they're just going to feel that they're getting a cost put on them from the district. It becomes very difficult to explain these things to people after the fact, too. You're going to hear a great hue and cry about this, one way or the other.
Councillor Holmes?
I'd like to ask Councillor Barkwell a question, actually. What would Revenue Canada do if it discovered 3 years later that it had made an error and people...
Reach back to the grave.
Sorry?
Nothing.
Yeah, what would Revenue Canada do in a similar situation if it was their error and they discovered it 3 years later that people had benefited from, they had paid their taxes?
I don't know if
Yeah.
there's any analogy I can think of there, but I know every time somebody's there's been cases where people have, well, that's a little bit different. If people have been paid, say, too much, payroll makes a mistake, and they've been paid $5 a month too much for 2 years, then people have to pay it back. In this case, these people have received money that they don't deserve, and we should be collecting it. I think we'll get a bigger hue and cry from all the people in town who see this and think that it's unfair that these people didn't pay their full share of their electricity bill.
Okay, CAO first and then the council group.
No, I don't have a question.
CAO.
Just wanted to state that in our discussions on what recommendation to bring forward to council, that we've had a lot of conversation about it and a lot of discussion on exactly what council is discussing right now. That I am concerned on the staff time. The $10,000 is probably realistic, but it's also our capacity and our ability within our finance department to have the resources to do the billing. That weighed into our conversation. I don't know how many people that have moved, but those any of those 700 properties that have changed hands, then it doesn't follow through. The new property owner will get the bill and will have not got the credit. So that will become a very difficult one. I do, and again, I need to preface this by saying that I do understand completely both sides of the organization. I do know from previous hydro organizations that I've worked in that these errors are made on occasion, and there are a balancing, at times there is a balancing situation that occurs to where you have to absorb it within the utility and where you and to the when it's 700, you're probably right in the worst of places as far as being right in the middle. If it was 200, or if it was almost all of them, your decision would probably be easier, but it does happen.
I'd just like to comment or add a comment of a letter. I do apologize that this letter wasn't attached to the agenda. It's from the Ministry of Finance, and it is from Jordan Goss, the Executive Director. And in the letter, she states that a number of energy suppliers that were assessed, they're talking about this erroneously giving this energy credit, have charged their customers for the credits provided in air, while others have chosen not to do so. In addition, other energy suppliers identified errors in advance of the audit, paid the province back for the amounts reimbursed, and also chose to recover the amounts from customers to whom they had provided the credit in error. So it does sound as though the practice in other energy suppliers was both ways. It wasn't all done one way or the other way.
Councillor Carlson.
If,
Councillor Pete.
if this audit was done in March of 2013, that's more than 2 years ago. Was it more than 2 years ago? It's a long time ago, and I don't know how you don't deal with something like this, you know, when it first shows up on your plate in spring of 2013, but I think it should have been dealt with, and we're trying to fix it, and I think had it happened in March of this year, we would be billing everyone, but I don't see it necessarily being fair to ask someone who 2 or 3 years ago got an extra $100 to ask them for that $100 back right now.
Councillor Peak, and then I have a question of staff.
I have a question, and I happen to agree with Councillor Carlson. We did ask the provincial auditors about this, and what was the response at the time or when we did that inquiry?
At the time that the audit was taking place, the auditor, the auditor's supervisor, myself, and the CAO at the time, Tom Day, had a conference call. And at that time, the discussion was all around this being a flow through to our customers, that any amount that we would bill to them would be fully recoverable by them at that point in time, either through their GST returns or the residential energy rebate program. It wasn't until Ms. Goss wrote the letter I just quoted from, which we received on April the 22nd, and then I had a conversation with her probably 2 weeks ago about that letter, where it came to light that that was not, in fact, the correct take on any amount we would bill to our customers, and that they would be having to have an out-of-pocket cost today, even though they did receive funds, as Councillor Barkwell pointed out, back in 2012 and 2013. In 2015, the full amount of that will not be recoverable.
Thank you.
Councillor Barkwell.
What do you mean the full amount of that will not be recoverable?
Well, if
I
we,
understood that we had until November in previous discussions to deal with this.
what I mean is they already got it in the past.
Yeah.
So when you get your bill for $500 in 2015,
Mhm.
you're not going to get $500 back in 2015.
No, because they've already received it.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But that was opposite from what we understood
Mm.
at the
The
beginning.
advice we were given.
If they had claimed it as an input tax credit.
At the beginning,
Yeah.
our understanding was that there hadn't been, from our discussions with that
Mhm.
auditor and his supervisor, that we would be billing them an amount of tax, not a recovery of an erroneous credit, which is very technical, but makes a difference in terms of when you get a bill, if it says on it, it is GST or PST or whatever, right? So based on that information that we were given, we believed that at the point in time that we would bill our customers, they would get $500 bill in 2015, they would have the opportunity to recover $500 in 2015.
Mhm.
We now know that that's not the case.
Right.
Yes,
They can't claim it twice.
yes.
I see. Okay.
I would think that the taxpayers of Summerland wouldn't really accept walking away from $80 or $90, $100, $1,000 just because we have, the current staff can't handle the billing process. I think they would expect that we would hire somebody, even if it, to do this job. I just think that the people I know would want to see that we don't abandon this much money, especially when it's not costing the people we send the bill to anything. They're net zero cost, really.
Okay, I have a bit of a question for our CFO. In terms of staffing to deal with this, as I understand things right now, and perhaps the CAO can, maybe this is better directed to you actually, CAO, in terms of our staffing capacity, and as I understand things, we have sort of recently come up to a staffing level to deal with the ongoing processes and financial need and requirements of our municipality. We were having difficulty before we came up to a reasonable staffing level, and we are now at a good complement to deal with where we're at right now. And to go through this process, I guess I'd need to understand, and I understand Councillor Barkwell's point of view, and it's sort of like you kind of have to dig down and deal with it. But at the same time, what does that mean in terms of what do we end up putting aside in terms of our operational capacities over the next, say, 2 months, if we do it during that period? Does that mean staff hunkers down and does this for 2 months? Other things are left to be done at a later date, or do we assign this? It is a complex thing. It deals with our own billing and our own customers, and I don't know how easy that is to bring a contractor in to do. So I can see, 2 shifts of the same staff trying to work for however many hours it takes to get this job done, because we still have to carry on with the regular business of the municipality. So how much, and I understand Councillor Barkwell's point of view, and I actually agree with it, but I just want to understand more fully what this means in terms of our carrying capacity to deal with our customers on an ongoing basis so that business carries on as usual.
I think that's a fair question, and if council directs the staff to bill stuff, we understand that perspective, and we will find the capacity to do it. My concern, as a relatively new CAO coming in and understanding our complement of staff and what's on our plates. My concern is that it's not a secret that we had a finance department that had its struggles in past years, and that Laurie Coates has, as a chief financial officer, has done a lot of work and has uncovered a number of very complex issues, many that don't come to the council table because they are non-monetary as far as this situation where there's choices. They're conundrums. It was the first year that we got our financial statements on time for many years, and many, to be blunt, there was many issues. My concern, and although we have additional staff now, my concern is what we're still working on getting sorted out, what then goes on the back plate in order to, this is one of many of the issues that happened long before any of us were here, that we're still sorting out. So that is a concern of mine, but it can't be done by a contractor coming in unless we have somebody that's from another municipality or somebody, but the likelihood in our environment is that wouldn't be possible. Did you have something?
Well, I'd just like to comment that we're also in our very busiest time collecting property taxes. And we have our new watered meter billing, which it just takes more time. So our utility billing area is not going to get additional help from our property tax area because they're at their peak season right now as well. So we're going to have to look at how we're going to structure this and get it done. Yeah.
Councillor Barkle.
There's two points. If somebody's moved and they get this bill, it basically won't get paid, I presume, because the bill belongs to the person, not that own the property. And unless it's forwarded to them and they haven't moved, just within Summerland, they'll probably never get paid. So that's what I
typically,
see.
if it belongs to the utility, it's a utility account, and it would probably fall to the current owner. But we may have a policy that we would.
Well, I think it would be unfair to charge, and we'd have. I mean, I think it would. It's a bill from previous months. It's not the current owner's bill, really. The other thing is, if we're talking, $100,000 of revenue here, and you need more staff, well, let's use $10,000 of that for your additional billing and another $40,000 to catch up on all the other things that you need to do in the office. This is an opportunity for the finance department to get some more resources.
Councillor Carlson.
Budget amendment.
Is this something that has to be decided tonight? Do we have
I think so.
Okay.
CFO, do you have any comment that we can bring into the mix?
As to the timeliness of it,
Yeah.
I think, from my point of view, the sooner we have the decision, the better, because then we can plan and structure. And, if we need to do some contracting to find some people, so a decision tonight would be great. If council needs more time to consider it, though, we will make work whatever council needs to do.
I think we've had, considerable amount of discussion, and I believe this is being brought back to the table, right? So, we've had lots of discussion, and I think we probably need to come to a decision. And I think further to the discussion, if we were to try and hire a contractor, then it goes out. Do we just search people out, and do we have to put out an RFP for it? Or do we look at trying to hire a number of people, and we vet those people to deal with our financial information and so on? I can see just coming up with the people to do this as a reasonably onerous task. I'm not looking for an excuse, but it's involving time where we have to interview people. We have to deal with how many people we're going to need to do that. And not lose. We've just got up, I believe, nicely up and running with the community's financial billing procedures and so on and so forth. We're getting a grip on a lot of the financial aspects that we haven't had a solid grip on, perhaps. and we're really doing, I think, a fine job with our finance department. And so to make a decision to not go ahead with this, and I certainly appreciate that. I just want to fully appreciate what it means to us, and so and I'm certainly not against going through that effort. But if it's the wish of council that we pursue this, and we can certainly deal with it. So any further discussion? Have we? Pardon me?
You don't have a motion.
Okay. So we need a motion to come forward now, please, and then we can have any, Councillor Trainer.
I just have one more question.
Okay.
You might not be able to answer this, but realistically, what would the return be on this amount? Like, there's 97,000. I know that's a hard question to answer, but I'm just trying to do all the math, and as we're just having this discussion.
We really haven't undertaken any research into how many account holders have changed, because that would be the big deciding factor. I think council may not be aware that where utilities are unpaid, and the service has been provided by the local government, then those amounts roll to property taxes at the end of the year. So when you talk about the recovery, once we bill it to a property owner, and they're the correct person who incurred that charge, if they choose not to pay it in January, that amount would roll to unpaid property taxes. So that's the same for sewer charges, water charges, wherever it's provided by the local government. So we will collect the money in that way, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So there's, in other words, by having things work in that kind of process, we wouldn't see ourselves going after people in small debt court and all this sort of thing. It just goes right through to taxes.
That's correct.
Councillor Holmes.
So in that case, if a property did change ownership, the new owners would end up paying for it regardless?
Unless council gives us direction that we're not going to bill on a change in ownership.
We wouldn't even do the bill at that time, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Barkle?
I'll put a motion on the table
Go
for
ahead,
discussion. I move that the council direct staff to send bills to outstanding property owners who still own their property that received the residential energy credit in error, to collect this amount, and that the staff be authorized to hire any and all additional resources they need to facilitate this, so that there's no additional load on staff.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holmes. Okay, the motion's on the table. We've had no discussion so far where that money might come from, but at any rate, we can certainly have further discussion here amongst us.
Did you say where that money might come from?
Yeah, to hire the extra staff.
Well, it would come from the $97,000
Right,
that we're bringing
okay.
in, I suppose.
Right, yeah, I mean.
Yes.
Hmm.
yeah.
And then you would bring
Okay,
in
just
less,
hire
but
the
you would
extra.
at least
Yeah.
bring in some.
Okay, any further discussion then? Councillor Booth?
Just a couple of things, and some of this is echoing what Councillor Barkle said. The whole issue of double dipping really concerns me. You know, getting the credit and then, yeah. Seeing as how, that's the first thing, and there, I have three things. The second thing is, seeing as how we have had to raise taxes this year, and $97,000 is the equivalent to about 1.5%. I think it kind of behooves us to see what we can do in terms of recouping that money. And thirdly, to address and I know that the motion did, but to address, and maybe you could, through the CAO, you could let me know a little bit about the process. Suppose that this motion is carried, and whomever you hire, it would be on a property by property basis, correct?
We have a list, yes.
Okay, so you would know then who, you know, if a name doesn't match up, for example?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's been a change in ownership, yes. Our system will show us that,
We'll show you
yes.
that. Okay.
I'd just like to, if I could add back to Councillor Carlson, the amount that we would spend on hiring someone or whatever is going to need to be absorbed by the electrical utility in the 2015 year, because this amount has been booked as an amount owing to the district. So any amount we don't have, that we used it to hire staff or whatever, is still a cost that's going to have to go through the 2015 electrical utility operations. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, because that's a receivable at this point.
It is at this point, yes.
Further to that, though, there wouldn't have to be extra funds that come out of a reserve, though, right? Because
Well-
that was one of the, sorry, a surplus, yeah, transfer from reserve funds to offset the impact.
If there was not sufficient net positive results in the electrical utility in the 2015 year to cover however much those costs may be, then yes, we would have to transfer some money from a reserve to cover that. But there very well may be enough operational positive results to absorb the cost.
But essentially, that's a surplus anyway. So it's still
Yes.
a transfer surplus. It would just be 10,000 or whatever number it turns to be instead of the 97,000.
Right.
Yes. There still is an impact.
Yeah.
I guess is
Okay.
the.
Just less.
Yes.
Okay. May I ask one other
Yeah,
question?
go ahead, of course.
It also has to do with this. So if there was a negative and you had to transfer money from a surplus account then, and you mentioned that in the property taxes would it would roll over to the property taxes if that amount wasn't paid, is there a way of, I don't know, identifying or separating that amount that is lumped in with the property taxes to go back into the electrical fund?
It does still stay in each fund, sewer,
Okay,
water,
good,
electric.
perfect.
It's just that collection mechanism.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
yeah.
Good, thanks.
Councillor Holmes?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, kind of rough sketching, if there's $100,000 out there and we're able to collect 80,000, it costs us 20,000 to collect it, then, it's still $60,000 we don't have right now. I think, as long as we're sensitive about how we approach it, so the person who owes $1,000, maybe they can pay in installments or whatever the case may be. I think if we approach it delicately and sensitively, I think we have a responsibility to all taxpayers to collect the money. So I'll support the motion.
Councillor Barkley?
I make an analogy here to the unpaid water bills that went on for 4 years, and councils were just unwilling to deal with things and face things straight on. And it sounds like this council's willing to deal with this one as well.
Certainly the motion is before us. Okay, any further discussion required? Hearing none, Councillor
We
Carlson?
just blame this whole thing on the government for the HST. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's, I'm sure, lots of blame to spread around. So, we'll call the question, please. All in favor of this particular motion? What was the final?
4.
Okay, we have the motions carried, 3 opposed.
You should ask for
Okay. Ask for opposed, please. Thank you. Councillor Peak, Carlson, and Trainer. And motion passes, is carried. Thank you. We're moving forward to 11.4. Am I right? Okay. We've been asked for a short break. We'll do that.
It's not going to be fun. That's okay.
I don't believe it.
Okay, council, we're ready to get back into action. I should have called a temporary adjournment there, which I didn't do, which we will do in the future. So we're on to 11.4, BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement, April 1st to 15th to March 31st to 16. CAO, you bring that forward.
I don't have too much to say. It is an operating agreement that the amounts were discussed during financial planning. It's a little out of date, a little late in receiving it. Jeremy, did you have anything to add to the report?
No.
Just needs authorization for signature.
Okay. So we just need to move ahead to make sure this is dealt with. Councillor Carlson?
Yeah, I will move that the District of Summerland agree to the proposed annual operating agreement between the District of Summerland, BC Transit, and the Penticton and District Community Resources Society, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the District of Summerland.
Seconder,
Pause.
please.
Is Jeremy called the corporate officer?
He's the deputy. Next
it matter?
council, it doesn't matter. And next council meeting will formally appoint him.
Okay, Councillor Peak, seconder, thank you. Any discussion? I think this is pretty straightforward. Councillor Holmes?
Does this commit us, what does this commit us to? Does this commit us to the established scheduling and fares and everything like that? You know, we were told a public transit survey was supposed to be done, and I'd like to know if that's underway, and if that has any bearing on this. I'm a bit confused of what the operating agreement
This is a 1 year annual operating agreement, and the most part is setting the terms for the shares of our transit funding and percentages and the amounts based on their pro formas. Did you wanted to add anything else to that? That's
There's much else to say.
It's fairly straightforward. It's not commitments. It's very much a standard document for anybody that is in partnership, and it's more about the funding models. But it's a very good point that, and I'll just say it, in coming here to Summerland, we recognize that, the operational side of transit is handled by Works. But one of the things that was noted very quickly in our discussions at management meeting is that there wasn't somebody from the administrative side, from the corporate side, that was following up on those administrative sides of things, and, which is one of the reasons this is late coming. So we have made that change, or are in the process of making that change, to make sure that any kind of commitments that we've talked about in the past and that are followed up. And there's some committee work that's being done that we actually missed out because we didn't have somebody from the corporate office attending. So that'll change now.
Essentially, though, there's, it's setting up it continues with the structure of things.
That's right.
And essentially, in terms of our budget for 2015, there's only a very slight change from what was budgeted, correct?
That's correct, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Okay. So any, Councillor Holmes?
Just
Yeah.
one other question. It seems, this one number kind of jumped out at me in the
Yep.
letter, the March 2015 letter from BC Transit. The operating cost, an increase of 115.8% in the operating company's fixed cost. Is that correct?
That's correct. So you may recall at budget time that we had a significant change from 2014 to 2015. And that line item that they're referring to, the fixed cost, went from the previous agreement was $15,198 to $32,801. So that's where that huge increase percentage comes from. And that line item for those fixed costs, I'll just, on that same page, so that's page 124 of the agenda package, it says it includes the operating company's overhead, non-driver and non-mechanic costs to deliver the service supervision, dispatching, training, bus fueling, cleaning, washing, utilities, rents, and administration. So the provider, which is the Penticton Community Resource Service, I believe it's called, really underestimated how much it was going to cost to do the administration side of that busing contract. And I think it may have been the previous council to this one where we had the discussions about the scheduling of the drivers and how difficult it was for them to get the coverage that we needed, and they had underestimated a lot of different things related to the operation of the bus service. So in the 2015 discussions I had back in February, March with the BC Transit folks, I had a conference call with a couple of people from their finance area, and they went over that with me because it was an area of a concern that I had when I received their budget package. They give a 3-year projection, and they just explained that given the first year of operation, they didn't fully anticipate all of the costs, and to be fair to the contractor, they really believed that we needed to increase that line item by such a significant amount.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So can we have the motion brought forward, please? Yeah, we already do that? Okay, I didn't have it written down, that's wrong. Okay, all in favor then? Thank you. Motion's passed, thank you. I'm trying to note here. Didn't make that note. Okay, we're moving on to new business, EBCM minister meetings. CAO?
Right, so as I briefly mentioned last meeting, it's coming up time to make our decisions on which ministers or senior staff within the ministries to put in requests to meet at UBCM. Our initial correspondence with them indicated that the meeting requests were going to be open last week, and they've been delayed, and they haven't provided us with nearly as much information that they usually have. They usually provide a book that has all the ministry, but not just the ministries. I gave you the listing of all the ministries, but there's also within that some of the portfolios. It's a bit of a listing that can help jog memories. So my suggestion today is that you have initial conversation, and if there's ones that we know that we want to make meetings, put in request, we begin with that, but that it can be a discussion as time goes on. We don't necessarily need a council resolution each time that we decide that there's a subject that we'd like to discuss with the minister. It's a little harder for councils in your first term, because it's you don't necessarily, you're only starting with your strategic plan. That's why I did put what was the meetings were last year. We did have some preliminary conversation about potentially meeting with Ministry of Transportation, and so I just wanted to have that discussion now, and then, like I say, that workbook will be coming out shortly, I'm sure, which will list the other agencies and give more breakdown as well.
Councillor Peak?
I appreciate the preliminary bringing this forward, and certainly we would want to meet with the Health and Minister of Agriculture regarding the water separation. But I would like an opportunity that I could have a little discussion with their CAO around some other thoughts as the time moves forward.
Yeah, I think that's what this motion allows for, yeah. Councillor Carlson?
I think that we talked about this a lot, and this may give us an opportunity to actually speak with the people who understand reconciliation and how we can move forward and form a proper relationship with our neighbors. So, I imagine everyone wants to speak with Aboriginal relations and reconciliation, but we should definitely make that part of our reason for attending. I also think we should speak with the Minister of Agriculture and perhaps the Minister of Health.
Yeah, well, I think as we have discussions, we'll kind of formulate the strategy of how we're going to deal with things. And, you know, each year in the last several years now, I guess the last two, we've come up with a binder for council and all the recommendations, who to meet with and the background on the issues, background on the ministers, and it's been a really good document to have with us to go over, actually, before we ever get there, and spend time on how we're going to handle it. And I have some ideas as to how we can involve all of council in those discussions. So, Councillor Traynor, and then Councillor Barkwell.
I noticed we get 15 minutes, so I guess we have to go in with pretty strategic
Oh, yeah.
plan, right? So we just kind of go in with one topic and,
You can't make the appoint, you can't ask for the meeting request unless you have your topic.
okay.
So when I submit it, we submit it already with the background, and then we write
Yeah.
a greater detailed backgrounder that we submit to them beforehand as well, and that council has pieces, copies of as well.
Okay. Well,
And, yeah,
I would like to meet with the infrastructure, so transportation and infrastructure for sure. That would be one of my votes.
Yeah. I think, certainly we've brought this up, and I think it allows for further discussion as we come up with suggestions of who we want to talk to and so on and so forth, correct?
yeah.
We're
If
not going to come up with them all right now.
No, but certainly I did have a conversation with Councillor Carlson just briefly about the Minister of Agriculture, and we could continue putting some thoughts together to put it into a more formal document.
Okay.
And same with the others.
Okay, can we have the motion, please? Councillor Barkwell?
Well, I was just,
Go ahead.
whatever
Go
order
ahead.
we do this.
Yeah.
Can you, I'm not familiar with UBCM
Mhm.
since I've never been, and 5 of us haven't, or 6 of us haven't
You're
ever
going.
been. How does it work? Is it like assuming all of council goes, because I've heard that it's almost essential that you
Mhm.
go to UBCM. Do you sort of wait outside a room and you all troop in for your 15-minute speed date with the minister and
That's about
hope
it.
that he?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
He
and they,
kinda-
so beforehand, we get, and not all the we won't be granted all of our wishes. Minister of Transportation, for example, is always the busiest one, and apparently, or has been recently, and quite often you don't get an audience with that one, but you have to prioritize when you put them in, and then you get your time slot, so everybody will have a calendar, and just prior to the meetings, you'll be all in a sort of a holding area outside, and you all go in, but I have to say now, being on a number of councils that have gone, if this is your first year out of 4, by the end of the time that you're in this office, you will know some of those ministers, if you don't know them already, well, even though it's only 15 minutes, then you'll see them later that day at a social event or in one of the sessions, and it is absolutely possible to make relationships with them through this process.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering, I think, will they ever remember us kind of
Yeah.
thing when
Yeah.
they're seeing 4 groups an hour,
Well, they'll
maybe.
remember us.
Their
Every-
aides will.
Yeah.
It's not like it's been
But I mean,
remember us.
obviously you go and you try and you hope and such, so. and then there's,
Actually,
yeah.
I've been to probably, 6 UBCMs, and the last few that I were at, especially where we had really good preparation, the meetings were very good, because we would, in fact, a number of them, we met with several ministers at once, because each minister might have been responsible for some aspect of our concern. And I know a couple of the meetings, the Premier was there as well, with the other ministers. So, they read the briefing ahead of time. We've got our preparation. We deliver our story, so to speak, and they asked a few questions, and believe me, it actually works, and it can work very well. So, Councillor Carlson, yeah.
Sorry. Just was going to say, and their senior staff is there with them.
Yep.
So even though there may not be an immediate interaction council to the minister after that, there's very often then a conversation, the senior staff member to the CAO that follows it up further.
And there's so many communities in British Columbia. I mean, the lobbying must be intense. It's just.
And some choose not to do it because there are some councils who feel that you're just like a, herd of cows or something, and that there's no value to it. But I think certainly Mayor Waterman's history and in mine, I know, I absolutely know the value to councils.
So we have so many charmers on our council that we'll be sure to be able to get.
I can't go
You gotta
on
work on
about
it, Richard.
Councillor Carlson?
If you aren't granted a meeting and you have a topic that you feel is important, can you still pass along that memo, or is that next year?
No, you can still submit it. Your choices there are to, try to get an appointment while you're there, because there's an appointment desk there, and quite often they leave slots open. And council needs to remember that if it's a subject that's important enough, you can always submit a request and then send a contingency to Victoria as well.
Okay, we need to move on. Can't remember, did we move?
You don't really need a motion, though,
Okay.
if you haven't really.
Okay.
I'd just like to know how the natural gas development is responsible for housing.
Okay,
Is that weird or what?
You use a lot of heat.
I won't even go
Don't
there.
go there, Doug.
We should ask him.
Okay, so I think staff understand their need for ongoing discussion. We'll come up with further information for council. We good with that? Okay. Okay, well, we did miss something, and it's my fault for, it was on my note page here. We have to deal with 11.5. We moved to 12.1 before we should have. So that's the landfill administrative services subject. So CAO?
Council all has a report. What we're considering now at this meeting is to provide a response to the request for proposals for the landfill administrative services. We received one submission to the RFP, which was advertised in, I believe it was May of this year. We've received one. Council did have some discussion relating to the potential of incorporating those two positions into our bargaining unit, and that there may be merit in incorporating it all, and that we could take time to start those conversations, to look what that might look like, and then that would be open for during the next round of collective bargaining, where we would be looking at potentially incorporating understanding the cost now. So staff recommendation at this point in time is to continue with the status quo, have those positions as administrative services contracted to the submission, which was Cantex Okanagan Construction Limited.
Okay. Any questions of the CAO or our works? Okay, Councillor Carlson?
The costs for 2015, would those be less since we're halfway through the year and they haven't started yet?
That would be the first year of operation. I would imagine it would be a 4-year contract overall.
Starting now.
Starting now.
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
It's just that the amount is not necessarily half of what the other ones are?
No, but it would go, that amount would be in
Year.
effect for 1 year.
From now.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to bring the recommendation forward, please. Councillor Peak?
The council award the contract for administrative services at Summerland landfill to Cantex Okanagan Construction Limited, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute a 4-year Summerland administrative services contract.
Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer? Further discussion? Councillor Peak?
I'm pleased that the contract is for a 4-year period. I believe it provides some stability, and we can have any further review in that time frame.
Yeah, that's the intent. Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried unanimously. So we're on to 12.2. Municipal Insurance Association of BC, MIA-BC, recommending voting delegates for those meetings. So, CAO, any
I don't,
comments?
Not,
It's pretty basic.
pretty straightforward. We need to have a voting delegate, and that happens, that's for UBCM.
Okay, sorry, yeah, that's right, that's when the discussion takes place. There's a separate meeting for MIABC
That's right,
there.
the
That's right.
AGM.
Counselor Carlson?
Me to make motion?
Sure.
Okay. That Councillor Richard Barkle be appointed as voting delegate for the annual general meeting of the subscribers of the Municipal Insurance Association of BC, MIABC, taking place during the UBCM convention September 21st to 25th, 2015. And that Councillors Tony Boot and Janet Peak be appointed as alternate voting delegates.
Seconder, please. Counselor Holmes, thank you. Any further discussion?
You're all gonna be there?
It's
Mhm.
Councillor Barklow.
You
What
know
does
where
it
it
really
is and
mean
when
to me?
it's-
What this means, Counselor Barkle, is we all stepped backward and you then were the one who's stepping forward. So thank you very much.
Don't miss that meeting?
Yeah.
Miss that meeting.
Or notify Tony and I if not.
Okay.
So, I've got a mover and seconder, all in favor? Thank you, motion's carried. So we're moving on to 12.3, busking policy. CAO?
Okay, so, a while ago, Councillor Holmes had brought forward a notice of motion, and council directed staff to start working on a busker street performer policy. Councillor Holmes had already done a lot of background work, and the previous interim CAO had also collected a number of examples of throughout the province. So we looked at and had quite a discussion in the office on what manner would be better. Some are attached to business licenses, and some are different permitting systems. This one seems to be straightforward. What I want to say right now is I don't recommend that council goes into the details here, because I think the next step right now is if council's in agreement with the theory that it would be a permit, that somebody, a permit, then we should be going and talking to the actual buskers and to the downtown businesses, and putting a little bit of a process in place. But I didn't want to just take this out for public, for that kind of consultation without council seeing sort of the overall. But that's where we're gonna get a better idea on what kind of hours are most appropriate. We've tried to throw out some ideas here, but that's, the next stage will be conversation, so.
Sounds fair. Counselor Holmes, speak to that.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank you for producing this so quickly. That's great. I'd also like to thank you for the simplicity of it. I think it's really easy to understand. I think there will be a couple concerns, but as you said, let's hear what people have to say about it, and I'll be looking forward to the feeding back. So I really appreciate it. Thanks.
So, Counselor Carlson?
Just wondering what the timeline then would be to get some feedback from people?
I thought we would attempt to do it quite quickly if we're going to have a street performers in place for this this year. We need to move fairly quickly, but I'm not sure. We can start mobilizing some of this right away, and I can get some staff working on that. But I can't. I had a date originally in here of like next council meeting. Then I realized that likely, depending on their feedback, it may be not possible, so, but it'll be soon.
Thank you. Counselor Trainer?
So you don't want any of our feedback right now?
I'd
You wanna
suggest
wait?
that you may not want to go in there, down
Okay.
there right now, because,
Okay.
but I think to come and talk to me outside of the meeting, to give me
Okay.
your feedback into the policy would be great as well.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just come, I just had one thought, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you then later.
Yeah, because this recommendation just asks staff to circulate this policy and see how it fares and whether it needs massaging a little bit and so on. So I think it's something, I'm glad Councillor Holmes initiated this, so we just need to move ahead. Councillor Holmes, would you like to move the motion?
I move that council direct staff to circulate draft policy 100.14, busker street performer policy to potential buskers, business community, public, etc. for comment, and present a final draft to council for consideration.
Seconder, please. Councillor Carlson. Thank you. Any further discussion? I think it's pretty clear where we're at. Okay, call for the vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. It's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're okay now? Yep. CAO? Okay. So we're moving into councilors' reports, please, starting with Councilor Trainer.
I attended the Business After Business, which many of you did. It was a good time. There was a lot of people there, and there was a lot of wineries pouring as well. So we made a comment that the number of people that show up is in direct relation to the number of wineries that are pouring. On Thursday, June 18th, myself along with several other councillors, including Mayor Waterman and members of the Trail of the Okanogans, attended a provincial government announcement in Penticton regarding new cycling tourism signage and a marketing strategy. The new signs will be installed across the South Okanagan, including Summerland, and will identify routes for cyclists to follow. This is exciting news as Summerland is set to open our new pathway connecting Trout Creek and Lower Town, which is scheduled to begin construction early next month. And last week, myself and Councillor Holmes attended a meeting with Recreation Manager Brenda, Grant Thompson from the Lakeshore Racquetball Club, and Evelyn Stafford. She represented the pickleball players. We discussed how both user groups can use district tennis courts without interfering with each other. It's clear that both groups would like to have their own courts, and I think that's something that we'll consider when we do our master recreation plan. But for now, we just agreed to create some signs that tell both groups when they can play, and that kind of avoids conflict in the interim. And finally, I attended Summerland's first Sunday market, and it was really great, and I just wanted to congratulate the organizers for a good job on the first day.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle.
I attended most of the things that Councillor Trainer did, but she said it much better, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Boot.
I attended the Elder Abuse Seminar at the Seniors Village with Mayor Waterman. I also acted as deputy mayor at the grand opening of the Buddy Bench. Mr. John Arp was there as well, at Giants Head School. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a place that students of the school will go to if they have no one to play with. They are encouraged to have a play plan before they go out for recess or lunch. But if they find that they don't have anyone to play with, they simply go and sit on there's 3 benches in a circle there. And I had the students demonstrate how it works. I was the student that was sitting there without anybody to play with, and 8-9-year-old boy came up and showed me, he came up and said, "Would you like to play?" And I understood that if you're asked to play, you cannot say no. You have to go with that person and play with them. So, well, no, I didn't, but.
You didn't?
No, I didn't.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun. Those kids are just so great. I attended the RDOS on the 18th, and also the media conference that Councillor Trainer just spoke of, and the Sunday market as well. Oh, and on the 15th, I attended with Councillor Holmes and Mayor Waterman a tour of Electromotion in the James Lake Industrial Area. Thanks.
On Saturday, I went to the Summerland Sweets Pancake Breakfast, even though I couldn't eat any of it because I knew how awesome it would be. And they had 900 people come through for free breakfast on Saturday, it was unbelievable. There were so many cars parked over there, you couldn't find a place to park, even at 11 o'clock. Like, it was really great. And I'm looking forward to the longboard competition, which starts at the end of this week. It's dry and it's hot, but I hear there's a good plan in place to mitigate the risk, so I'm looking forward to it, and I think that we should continue to support it and make sure that the residents of Summerland know it's happening, because there's a lot of young, energetic people coming to town this week, so it should change the vibe a little bit.
Wasn't the Sunday market fantastic for those who went? I thought that was just an incredible first day, and I'd like to congratulate Rotary and everybody involved in organizing the market, and especially everybody who went out to support the market. It was exceeded my expectations, that's for sure. So I was really pleased with that. Business After Business was one of the better ones, I thought, too. And as Councillor Trainer mentioned, I think the presence of all of Bottleneck wineries there helped that. We had a culture plan task force meeting last week, and I think we're really moving forward. I think that the meeting last week, the motivation was there. I think the determination to let's get going, and I think kind of from this point on, the public's going to hear from us a lot more. So that was quite positive. Mostly in the past couple of weeks, I've been wearing my tennis hat. I've organized my 7th annual rookie tour, which is kids from all over the Okanagan come here to play usually their first competitive matches. And this past weekend, I organized the 43rd annual Greenwood Cup, which brings in players from Washington State all the way up to Salmon Arm. So
And then you won it too.
my son and I, we did all right. And then finally, I just want to say this week, of course, is grad, and congratulations to all the high school students who are graduating.
You forgot one thing about your tennis episode that you let me know. You did win your, I guess it was a doubles competition with your son, and that your son actually carried you on that one. Yes. So it's tough to go downhill.
It was Father's Day after all.
Okay.
No
Thank
sleds required, eh?
Councillor Peak.
Thank you. Most of what I've attended has been covered by the other committee members, but the Business After Business was a wonderful culmination for the whole year. I have to applaud the Yacht Club. They did an exceptional job on their presentation. I also heard it through the grapevine, had lots of fun. That's a great opportunity for the public to come out. The Sister City had a committee meeting, and those minutes will come forward, but they're working ahead on the things that they need to. And as Doug mentioned, with the Cultural Plan Task Force had an extremely good meeting. They are working very hard on creating an excellent process to bring out to the public to do our consultations. And we were getting some presentations within the committee, and that's exciting to start to hear some of those things as well. I also attended the donor recognition at Okanagan College. And I too want to congratulate the Rotary on an excellent first Sunday market. It was a beautiful day.
Thank you. Okay. I was going to ask for members of the public, but they're hunkered right down there in the back row. Okay. Press. Susan or John, do you have any questions for us?
I do.
Yeah.
On May 11th, when you canceled the public hearing about the urban growth strategy, you said that you did so because you wanted to have further public consultation. In what ways have you consulted with the public?
I didn't say when that consultation would take place. And as our select committee met, we came to the conclusion through the discussion that occurred actually. Some of the information we had prior to that meeting when we made that decision pushed us to realize that we did not have adequate consultation on the Prairie Valley West aspect of the situation, but that we did indeed have adequate consultation through the process regarding urban growth itself, where that growth might take place vis-a-vis agricultural land. So that left us in a position of saying, we want to move forward in a confident way. We know where the communities express themselves with respect to development, but we do not know enough about their will or their desires for Prairie Valley West, because that really hadn't been discussed in the previous, quote, land swap discussion that took place prior and wasn't really part of the Sustainable Solutions discussion in a thorough enough way.
So you hadn't realized this before the public hearing on May the 11th?
No, I think, I think what I'm saying is that we needed to have more discussion on the overall intentions with respect to Prairie Valley West. And it wasn't necessarily that we would have that. The time frame didn't allow for full discussion of Prairie Valley West at that time, so we decided to move on what we had in the way of adequate consultation. That's where it sat. Now we're prepared, because we wanted to be able to put the community in a position with confidence and have our development community realize that now they can move forward in the areas that the public had maybe made their desires known through the election and the prior public consultations and the big meetings we had. But there really wasn't adequate discussion really about the merits and what would be the disposition and the desires of the community in Prairie Valley West. So we decided at that point to present it in the way that we did, to move forward on the areas of certainty and then leave the, quote, phase 2 part of things for further discussions to decide what the community would want to do with Prairie Valley West.
Okay, thank you. One other question. In the committee meetings, and Councillor Traynor mentioned that the SCP Review Committee is open to the public.
Yes.
Is the public, can they participate in, can they ask questions or
Oh,
participate
yeah,
in
yeah,
discussion?
yeah.
Okay, then this, I have a question. When is a councillor not a councillor? Because it says public present, and then there are 3 councillors, not with the titles, just their names. And then Barbara Thorburn also listed as a
yeah,
member of
yeah.
the public. And I would have thought that, that there would have been that distinction made between councillors who were present as observers. I can understand why councillors would want to go to that meeting
Yes.
or to understand. But to be listed as members of the public strikes me as really strange.
Yeah, I can see your point. I think the select committee itself was certainly designated, and councillors, some councillors appeared at various times, some didn't, and towards that meeting, more did. CAO, perhaps you can
So that's a
illuminate.
fair enough comment. I think that it's, we can just review the way that we've done the minutes. I hadn't noted that myself yet. But it's, you know, you have your members of the committee, and then whether or not it says public present, it should still say counselor so-and-so. There's still a counselor when
Yes.
they attend the committee
I
meeting.
think
Yeah,
because it struck me as, you know.
yeah.
Yep.
But it was just an
without being a
oversight.
councillor,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
a councillor,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
mean, Barbara Thorburn wasn't here voting.
Right.
She was there as a member of the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
Well-
that's,
We will just attach the name of council.
thank you.
But
Okay.
we weren't without voting either.
No, and you would be at the the observers would be still separate from the
Yeah.
committee members, but just with the
Yeah.
Title, yeah.
title attached to it.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up. It clarifies it.
Thank you.
John, is that any more further questions, Ms. McIver? Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, John? Okay, thank you very much. So could I have a motion for adjournment, please? Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much.